What if I told you that certain plants in your garden could double, triple, or even quintuple the harvest of everything around them? That strategic planting could eliminate fertilizer bills, control pests naturally, and boost yields without adding a single square foot? Homesteaders have been stacking functions for generations, and today I'm going to show you 15 plants that multiply your garden's productivity. White clover ground cover that costs pennies and adds 100 to 150 pounds of nitrogen per acre per year for free. Trifolium repens forms living mulch between garden rows while feeding neighboring plants. Dutch farmers pioneered white clover in pastures in the 1700s, discovering that grass grew taller and greener where clover spread. Root nodules host rhizobium bacteria that convert atmospheric nitrogen into plant-available forms. Modern research confirms clover adds nitrogen equivalent to $50 to $100 worth of synthetic fertilizer per acre. Broadcast seed between vegetable rows, around fruit trees, or in pathways where it suppresses weeds while feeding everything nearby. The white flowers attract pollinators continuously spring through fall. Industrial agriculture abandoned clover when cheap synthetic nitrogen became available. Your garden paths become nitrogen factories. Comfrey. This deep-rooted perennial mines nutrients from 10 feet underground that shallow-rooted vegetables cannot reach. Symphytum officinale accumulates potassium, calcium, and phosphorus in massive leaves that become free fertilizer when chopped. Russian botanists in the 1800s promoted comfrey as livestock fodder because animals thrived on its mineral content. Plant one crown at garden borders and harvest leaves 3 to 5 times per season. Chop fresh leaves around tomatoes, peppers, and fruiting crops, or steep in water for concentrated fertilizer tea. The decomposing leaves release accumulated minerals directly to plant roots. Modern soil tests show dramatic increases in available nutrients where comfrey mulch is used regularly. Chemical fertilizer companies replace traditional nutrient cycling with purchased inputs. Your border plant pulls minerals from deep soil and delivers them to your vegetables. Alfalfa, the queen of cover crops, adds over 200 pounds of nitrogen per acre while sending roots 20 feet deep. Medicago sativa breaks through hardpan and brings up minerals from subsoil that annual crops never access. Middle Eastern farmers cultivated alfalfa for 2,000 years as forage that simultaneously improved soil. The deepest roots of any legume create permanent channels for water infiltration and air exchange. Modern organic farmers use alfalfa to regenerate depleted fields before transitioning to vegetables. Plant as cover crop in fall, let grow through spring, then mow and incorporate before summer planting. The biomass adds massive organic matter, while nitrogen feeds following crops for months. Subsequent vegetable yields increase 40 to 60% compared to bare soil. Industrial farms replaced biological nitrogen with anhydrous ammonia from natural gas. Your cover crop feeds soil life and plants simultaneously. Daikon radish, giant radishes that drill through hardpan like living tillers and die over winter, leaving nutrient channels. Raphanus sativus var. Longipinnidus sends taproots 6 to 8 feet deep, cracking compacted soil that prevents root growth. Japanese farmers developed daikon for deep soil penetration and winter food storage. The modern tillage radish variety was bred specifically to replace mechanical tillage in no-till farming systems. Plant in late summer, let roots penetrate through fall, and winter kill leaves channels that persist for years. Following spring crops, send roots down existing radish channels, accessing deeper moisture and nutrients. Research shows 50 to 80% improvement in water infiltration and root penetration after one season of daikon. The decaying roots release scavenged nutrients exactly where the next crop needs them. Tractor-based tillage compacts subsoil while loosening surface, creating hardpan. Your radishes break compaction biologically without machinery. Fava beans. Cool season legumes that fix 150 to 200 pounds of nitrogen per acre while producing edible beans. Vicia faba thrives in cold weather when other legumes fail, fixing nitrogen from fall through spring. Ancient Mediterranean civilizations cultivated fava beans 8,000 years ago for food and soil improvement. Plant in early fall, let grow through winter, harvest young pods in spring, then chop plants before flowering. The nitrogen-rich biomass feeds summer crops, while the beans provide early harvest. Modern organic farmers use favas as an edible cover crop that pays for itself through bean sales while improving soil. Research confirms following crops see 60 to 90% yield increases from nitrogen and organic matter. The dual purpose of food plus fertility makes favas uniquely valuable. Industrial farming separated cover cropping from food production as inefficient. Your fava beans deliver both from the same planting. French marigolds, bright flowers that kill root knot nematodes and protect tomatoes, peppers, and potatoes from invisible soil pests. Tagate's patula roots exude alpha-terthianol, a chemical that reduces nematode populations by 90% after 3 months of growth. Mexican farmers intercropped marigolds with vegetables for centuries, observing that certain plants grew healthier near these flowers. University research in the 1960s isolated the specific compounds and confirmed the nematode-killing mechanism. Plant French marigolds densely around susceptible crops in spring and let them grow all season. The longer they grow, the greater the nematode reduction for following years. Nematode damage causes stunting, wilting, and yield loss that gardeners often blame on other factors. A single season of marigold planting protects soil for 2 to 3 years afterward. Chemical nematicides are toxic and expensive, requiring protective equipment and soil fumigation. Your marigold border kills nematodes while attracting pollinators and looking beautiful. The flowers are edible and the entire plant becomes nematode-killing mulch when chopped at season end. Nasturtiums. Sacrificial plants that draw aphids away from vegetables like magnets while providing edible flowers and leaves. Tropaeolum majus contains mustard oils that aphids prefer over most other plants. Victorian gardeners planted nasturtiums specifically as trap crops, letting aphids colonize them instead of roses and vegetables. The strategy works because aphids reproduce so rapidly on nasturtiums that predatory insects like ladybugs and lacewings congregate there, then spread to protect nearby crops. Plant nasturtiums early around brassicas, cucurbits, and fruit trees as living aphid traps. The vining types sprawl as ground cover while bush types work as borders. When aphid populations explode on nasturtiums, beneficial insects multiply and spread throughout the garden. Research shows 70 to 85% reduction in aphid damage to main crops when nasturtiums planted nearby. The peppery flowers and leaves add spice to salads while serving pest control function. Chemical aphid sprays kill beneficial insects along with pests, creating cycles of dependence. Your nasturtium border attracts pests away from crops while feeding beneficial predators. Borage. Blue star flowers that increase pollination rates 40 to 60% and bloom continuously for months. Borago officinalis attracts honeybees, bumblebees, and native pollinators in massive numbers because flowers produce abundant nectar accessible to all bee types. Medieval European bee gardens always included borage because beekeepers observed increased honey production and healthier hives. The continuous bloom from spring through fall provides nectar during gaps when other flowers finish. Plant near squash, cucumbers, melons, tomatoes, and peppers, where pollination directly impacts yield. Modern research confirms improved fruit sets and larger fruits when borage grows within 50 feet. The leaves accumulate calcium and potassium from deep roots, making them valuable chop-and-drop mulch. Borage self-seeds prolifically, returning year after year without replanting. Commercial agriculture uses managed honeybees trucked between farms, an expensive and declining solution. Your borage patch supports wild and managed pollinators while increasing yields of everything nearby. The flowers are edible with cucumber flavor, adding function to function. Yarrow ferny perennials that attract over 500 beneficial insect species and accumulate minerals from deep soil. Achillea millifolum produces flat-topped white or pink flower clusters that serve as landing pads for predatory wasps, ladybugs, hoverflies, and lacewings. European farmers maintained yarrow in field borders because they observed fewer pest outbreaks where it grew wild. The adult beneficial insects feed on yarrow nectar and pollen, then lay eggs near pest populations where their larvae devour aphids, caterpillars, and other crop damage. Plant yarrow as a permanent border perennial and never remove it completely. Let it flower continuously to maintain beneficial insect populations through the season. The deep roots accumulate copper, phosphorus, and potassium that become available when leaves decompose as mulch. Biodynamic farming preparations use yarrow specifically for its mineral balancing properties. Research shows gardens with established yarrow borders see 50 to 70% reduction in pest damage without any spraying. Chemical insecticides kill beneficials and pests equally, requiring repeated applications. Your yarrow border becomes a permanent habitat for pest predators that patrol your entire garden. Dill umbrella flowers that attract parasitic wasps and hoverflies that control aphids and caterpillars on brassicas. Anethum graveolens blooms provide nectar for adult parasitic wasps whose larvae eat pest insects from inside. European gardeners traditionally interplanted dill with cabbage family crops after observing reduced caterpillar damage. The strategy works because tiny parasitic wasps lay eggs inside aphids and caterpillar larvae, and the wasp larvae consume the pest from within. Plant dill throughout the garden and let it flower, rather than harvesting all for culinary use. Succession plant every 3 weeks to maintain continuous bloom, attracting beneficial insects all season. The feathery foliage also confuses pest insects, searching for host plants by scent. Hoverfly larvae are voracious aphid predators, consuming 400 to 800 aphids each during development. Research confirms 60 to 80% reduction in cabbage worm and aphid damage when flowering dill grows nearby. Pesticides targeting caterpillars and aphids kill the parasitic wasps and hoverflies that provide free control. Your flowering dill attracts an army of pest controllers while producing edible seeds and foliage. Buckwheat, fast-growing cover crop that blooms in 30 to 40 days, attracts massive bee populations and releases locked phosphorus for following crops. Phagopyrum esculentum is called the best pollinator plant per square foot because dense plantings create solid masses of white flowers dripping with nectar. Russian farmers used buckwheat as green manure for centuries, observing that following crops grew larger and healthier. Japanese soba cultivation improved soil structure and fertility for rice paddies. The secret is that buckwheat roots release phosphorus-solubilizing enzymes that convert unavailable rock phosphate into plant-available forms. Modern research confirms 25 to 40% yield increases in crops following buckwheat due to improved phosphorus availability and enhanced pollinator populations. Plant buckwheat between crop rotations in spring or summer as a 45 to 60-day cycle. The rapid growth suppresses weeds completely while roots work on phosphorus. When flowers open, bee populations explode, improving pollination of everything nearby. Mow before seed set, decompose for 2 weeks, then plant main crops. The decomposing buckwheat releases accumulated phosphorus exactly when vegetables need it. Tomatoes, peppers, and squash planted after buckwheat produce 30 to 50% more fruit from improved pollination and phosphorus. Chemical phosphorus fertilizers leach easily and bind in soil, becoming unavailable. Your buckwheat planting mines existing soil phosphorus and delivers it biologically. Broadcast seed at 2 to 3 pounds per 1,000 square feet, water in, and watch it transform bare soil into flowering bee habitat in 1 month. You can fit 2 to 3 buckwheat cycles per season in warm climates, multiplying the benefit. Mammoth sunflowers, giant flowers that mine minerals from 6 feet deep, attract every beneficial insect, trap aphids, and provide climbing structure for beans. Helianthus annus grows 8 to 12 feet tall, with massive taproots accumulating calcium, phosphorus, and potassium in quantities that dwarf most garden plants. Native American agriculture included sunflowers in the Three Sisters variations, providing additional trellis and attracting pollinators for corn, beans, and squash. The huge flower heads attract over 100 beneficial insect species from predatory beetles to parasitic wasps, creating biodiversity hotspots in the garden. Modern research shows vegetable yields increase 35 to 50% when sunflowers are planted in rows or borders due to improved pollination and beneficial insect populations. The aphids that colonize sunflower leaves and stems draw predators like ladybugs and lacewings that then spread to protect nearby vegetables. Plant sunflowers in spring, spaced 2 feet apart, and interplant with pole beans that climb the stalks as they grow. The beans fix nitrogen while climbing, the sunflowers mine deep minerals, and both attract pollinators in a stacked function system. At season end, chop the massive stalks and leaves as mulch, releasing all accumulated minerals to soil. Leave seed heads standing through winter to feed beneficial birds like chickadees and nuthatches that eat overwintering pest insects and eggs. Cucurbits like squash, cucumbers, and melons benefit most from the increased pollination sunflowers provide. Research confirms 40 to 60% improvement in fruit set when sunflowers grow within 100 feet. The shade from sunflower leaves also protects sensitive crops from harsh afternoon sun in hot climates. Varieties like Mammoth Russian, Kong, and Titan produce maximum height and biomass for greatest mineral accumulation. Industrial agriculture views sunflowers only as an oilseed crop, missing the companion planting value. Your sunflower row becomes a pollinator magnet, pest trap, bean trellis, mineral miner, and beneficial bird feeder simultaneously.